Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's guest speaker event. This is the third guest speaker of the event of this year, so we really appreciate you guys coming. Our guest speaker is very busy, so she had to make time out of her day. So we really appreciate her for coming, and then also you guys for attending. Some quick announcements. First of all, we really apologize for the delay. So because of that, we'll be giving you guys an extra 0.5 credits. So for attending this event, you guys will get 1.5 credits. As usual, the attendance button will pop up when we make the announcement. This time, however, to get attendance for this event, you will have to answer a few questions and then also write a thank you note to the speaker. So please make sure you do that, and we'll be reading the responses, so we'll know if you didn't watch the event. And then also, we'll be having questions at the end as normal, so you can always type those questions, and then the guest speaker will answer them at the end of the event. So now I will talk to Sophia. I'll hand the mic over to Sophia, who will introduce our wonderful guest speaker.
So I'm super excited to introduce Maysoon Zayid, one of the first stand-up Muslim comedians in America, Palestine, and Jordan. Today, she's going to be talking about her inspirational background and how she has been an NHS member in the past and how she can help you navigate your future. So you may begin.
Hey everybody, my name is Maysoon Zayid, and for those of you who can't see me, I look like the Lost Kardashian. So I have cinnamon skin, long black hair, I'm wearing a flashy, sparkly gold shirt, and I'm sitting in front of a bookshelf full of books I have never read and I will never read. But people sent them to me and I feel bad for them, so I put up their books as like free advertisement. I apologize so much for the delay. It's not Sophie's fault. It's not the National Honor Society's fault. It's my fault because I got the time zones mixed up. I'm East Coast. I thought they were West Coast. They were actually Central. I don't feel like Central's a time zone, but that's not something we're going to discuss right now. So I like to tell everybody my origin story. In the Oppression Olympics, I would win a gold medal. I'm Palestinian. I'm Muslim, I'm a woman of color, I'm divorced, I'm disabled, and I live in New Jersey. If you don't feel better about yourself, maybe you should. I don't want anyone to feel bad for me because I'm palsy, because I got 99 problems and palsy is just one. And if you don't know what cerebral palsy is, it manifests itself differently in everyone. Some of us are nonverbal. Some of us are wheelchair users. In my case, I shake all the time. So I shake it, shake it, shake it, like Taylor Swift. But she just wants to shake, 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 and mine is totally involuntary. But there are perks to being palsy. And one of the biggest perks is that we never have to stand online. Now, I know there's like a Q&A spot where you guys can ask me questions. Or a chat spot I see here, where you guys can put questions and chat. What is the best place in the world to not stand online? I'm waiting for your answers, let's see. What's the best place on the world not to stand online? Disney. I used to love Disney World as a kid. I would go on like the rides that had 2-hour lines like 15 times. I would go on this ride called Space Mountain, and I'd come back out to the line and I'd find a kid that was standing in the blazing hot Florida sun under a sign that said 2 hours from here. And I'd be like, hang in there, kid. It's totally worth it. I just went on Space Mountain 15 times. And then my favorite ride in Disney was the teacups. The teacups are this ride where you sit in the cup and they spin you around really fast. And I love that ride because anytime I walked off, I would walk straight for like 6 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, this place actually is magical. But then it all went bad. A bunch of non-disabled people started renting disabled people so that they could cut the lines. And they got caught. And Disney banned all of us from cutting the line. So now it's no longer the happiest place on earth. And I wish I could have been one of those tour guides before it went bad, because I would have made it a teachable moment. I would have taken the kids away from their parents. I would have been like, hi, Timmy and Sally. I wouldn't care what their actual names were. I would just call them Timmy and Sally. And I'd be like, hi, Timmy and Sally. Mommy and Daddy did a very, very bad thing. And you're just one little accident away from being just like me. Now, who wants to go on Space Mountain? Hold on tight. Disability does not discriminate. We are the one group that you are welcome to join at any time, regardless of race, faith, gender, orientation, economic class, and ability. I think the world should be more like disability. So my mom looks like Julia Roberts and my dad looks like Saddam Hussein. And the way they met is such a cool story. I want it to be like a Lifetime movie. They're first cousins. Yeah, my dad swears that the first time he saw my mom, he knew she was the one. And I was like, Daddy, how'd you know mommy was the one? And he said, your grandfather, he told me. And my mom has a nickname for my dad. She calls him her husband. And when I was born, they had no idea that God would gift them with another girl because they already had 3. They didn't think they would be so lucky as to have another baby that was assigned female at gender. It was assigned female at birth. So when I was born, they hadn't prepared a name for a girl. They only had a name for a guy. Now, I know you all are in high school. It's too early to be having kids. But in case you want to save this name and use it when you have a baby, or if you are knocked up right now, you can have it. It's fine. I'm fine with sharing it. They were going to name me Muhammad. Now, and Muhammad is a great name. It's the name of a prophet. It's the name of the greatest boxer that ever lived. But being named Muhammadiyah is like being named Smurfette. Luckily, the doctors told my parents I was going to drop dead. And they didn't want to waste such a great name on an angel baby. So instead, they named me Maysoon. Now, every Arabic name has a meaning. And if your parents don't know the meaning of your name, they lie to you. So if you're a boy, they say, it means lion. Roar, habibi, roar. And if you're a girl, they say, it means a beautiful flower in the heaven. That's why you never see it. So I grew up thinking my name meant a beautiful heavenly flower. And when I was 18, I met a linguist from Iraq who informed me that Maysoon actually means lemur. In other words, my parents named me Zaboomafoo. They named their brown shaking baby monkey and I survived. Now, another thing that the doctors told my parents was that I would never walk. Now, let me be clear. There is absolutely no shame in not walking or using any mobility device you feel frees you. I often see in journalism the phrase wheelchair bound. Wheelchairs do not bind, they free. We need to create a society where people do not fear using a wheelchair, a cane, a walker, crutches, or braces because they think it's a failure, because they think that using something that makes their lives easier is giving up. No, I'm gonna have to sneeze, everybody. I'm so sorry. Hold on. And now it's not gonna happen. Wait. Sorry, I'm in your headphones. That must be horrible, but I had to sneeze. It's dusty. I'm in the basement. Anyway, using any mobility device you need, there's no shame in it. You don't have to say, I'm going to suffer another week before I use a cane. It's okay that my ankles hurt. I can't wear braces. It is not a failure. It's not giving up. It's not a one-way road to being dysfunctional. You can use these devices. But when I was born before the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, I know that is super hard to believe because cinnamon don't crack and I look younger than Selena Gomez. But the fact is I could be her grandmother. And when I was born, there was no such thing as an American with Disabilities Act. So my father was determined to teach me how to walk. And he had 2 techniques. His first was to put my feet on his feet and just walk. I walked miles on that man's shoes. His second technique was to dangle a dollar bill and have me chase it. My inner stripper was so strong. I was running in stilettos by kindergarten, and my dad had a mantra, and his mantra was, You can do it. Yes, you can. And when I enrolled in school, my 3 older sisters had already gone to school. It was public school, it was free. And when my dad went to enroll me in school, the superintendent told him that I had to go to a school for children with Down syndrome. And my father, who was an immigrant, who knew nothing about the law, jumped up and said, Mr. Kaligraki, if you send my daughter on the short bus, in the name of Allah, I will shoot you. Now, I do not know if Mr. Caligreco thought my dad was going to shoot him instead of sue him, but it doesn't matter, because when an angry Arab man walks into your office with his disabled daughter on his toes invoking the name of Allah, you better listen. And Mr. Caligreco did. Why is that important? Because I believe that if I was not mainstreamed, I would not be here as a National Honor Society alumni talking to you all today. Access to a free and equal education matters. Create a space in your schools where children and students with disabilities can participate, can function, and cannot be excluded. So, like most Muslim kids growing up in America, I had a dream. And my dream was to be on the daytime soap opera General Hospital. I also had a very best friend, and her name was Tina. Now, my best friend Tina is really interesting because I was born and raised in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, which means my hometown and my disability have the exact same initials, CP. And I was born in a very diverse town. There were 33,000 Italian Catholics and 6 Arabs who were all my family. But I was never treated differently. I was never bullied. I was never made fun of. My best friend Tina would take me to midnight mass and she would say, she is from where Jesus is from. And I'd say, I'm from Jersey. So growing up, as I said, I had a dream, and my dream was to be on the daytime soap opera General Hospital. I pursued that dream by going to Arizona State University. Why ASU? Because I grew up during something called affirmative action. Affirmative action was when big schools gave scholarships to minorities just like me. And I'll never forget, the admissions officer from ASU called us. I know this is a really foreign concept to you. They would put numbers in a phone and they would talk into it instead of texting or emailing. It was really weird. Like you would hear people's voices. It was amazing. Anyway, the admissions officer called me. I just want to say 3 cheers for Sam. I don't know if you all can see her, but it's really hard to do stand-up comedy in a vacuum. And she's giving me chuckles and I'm super, super appreciative. And I'm actually going to say they instead of she, because it's not my job to pick pronouns. And it's really important that you guys respect that. So apologies for the shortcut. So the admissions officer calls me and she says, Maysoon, we had always dreamed of finding a lesbian in a wheelchair who was Black. And then we found you. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to give me so much money. This is going to be awesome. And they did. And I was the pet lemur of the theater department. Absolutely everybody loved me. I got A's in all of my classes. I got A's in all of my classmates' classes. They were actors. They needed my help. You know, immigrant kid, overachiever. I should have been a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. I pretended that I was doing acting as pre-law to make me like a really tough closing argument type of lawyer. I never did that. And I couldn't understand why I wasn't getting cast in any of the shows. Like, how am I getting A's in all my acting classes, but I can't play like diner number 3 in Milltown? So my senior year, I get my big break. Arizona State University decides to do a show called They Dance Real Slow in Jackson. It's about a girl with cerebral palsy. I'm I'm a girl with cerebral palsy. So I'm like, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. I didn't get the part. Sherry Brown got the part. I don't even change her name. And she did not have cerebral palsy. So I went to the head of the theater department and I was like, can you please tell me how I didn't get the part that I was literally born to play? And I am using the word literally correctly in this sentence. And the head of the theater department looks at me and she goes, you can't do the stunts. And I go, if I can't do the stunts, neither can don't want to get yelled at by Rat. Neither can the character. Life was imitating Hollywood. College was imitating Hollywood. Hollywood has a sordid history of having non-disabled actors play visibly disabled roles on screen. Visible disability, much like race, cannot be played. People with disabilities, disabled people, are 2% of the population. Sorry. Disabled people are 20% of the population. I've spent the past 5 days doing math, so my math is like really off right now. Disabled people are 20% of the population. 1 in 3 American households includes a disabled person, but we're only 2% of the images you see on TV. And of those 2%, 95% are played by non-disabled actors. If you can't see it, you can't be it. If every time a disabled kid sees a wheelchair user or someone who's autistic or someone who's blind miraculously healed as they strut down the red carpet, the image that we are sending to disabled kids is you do not belong. And we have no idea how many people with invisible disabilities even grace our screens. Invisible disabilities like chronic pain, lupus, fibromyalgia, mental health issues, depression. We have no idea how many people with invisible disabilities grace our screens because the stigma against those disabilities is so strong that even the most famous actor or actress fears revealing their disabled status. If you can't see it, you can't be it. There is a day of mourning for people with disabilities that are killed by their caretakers in America. I believe that more positive images of disability in media can save lives. We must insist that there is nothing about us without us. If there is a disabled part, it should be cast with a disabled actor. And I know a lot of people are like, but Maysoon, it's acting. Isn't it just the best actor for each part? Yes, it's absolutely the best actor for each part, but disability can't be acted. You're not going to cast Denzel Washington in a Hillary Clinton biopic to play Hillary Clinton. It's just not going to happen. We need to apply those same rules to depictions of disability on screen. And we need to break out of the 3 storylines that disabled people are allowed to have. Ready? You can't love me because I'm disabled. Heal me or kill me. Yes, kill me. How many movies have you seen like Me Before You, where we depict lives of those around us as being better when the disabled person dies? Our lives are worth living. We need accessibility, not to be healed. We need equality, not to be erased. Ooh, I'm getting hyper. So I graduate college. I move back to New Jersey. I start auditioning. And I'm not getting cast in anything. And again, I can't figure out where I'm not getting cast, right? Because I know I'm good. I've had professors tell me I'm amazing, even though I'm not getting cast in the shows at school. I'm getting A's in my classes. I know I'm good. I'm not getting cast in anything. I turn on my TV and I realize I don't see people who look like me. There was no Mindy Kaling. There was no Lily Singh. There was no Hassan Minhaj. But where I did see myself was in the world of stand-up comedy, especially through the eyes of the first brown shaking comic. And let me tell you, the powers that be are going to be very sad that I recommended this guy for you, Richard Pryor. He was the original brown, black, shaking, disabled comic. And I thought, oh, this is the genre that I can really like flourish in. And I did. And the reason I did so well in stand-up comedy, other than the fact that like I write jokes, I'm funny, was because in the world of stand-up comedy, most of our shows are at comedy clubs. And most comedy clubs require people who are 21 and over to drink. Now, I'm Muslim, I don't drink, but none of the other comics knew that because, see, my cerebral palsy manifests itself in a way that I look like I'm wasted. So I would be in the comedy clubs waiting my turn, and no one even thought of me as the disabled chick. They thought of me as the drunk girl that always hit it out of the park when I got on stage. So stand-up comedy was where I found my life. And I became a touring stand-up comic. I headlined a Live Nation tour called the Arabs Gone Wild. And while I was on the Arabs Gone Wild tour, I got discovered. A newscaster named Keith Olbermann. Now, this is very, very important. I'm a news commentator, but because you're the National Honor Society, I'm not allowed to be newsy right now. So we're just going to tell this story in a vacuum as if this isn't the biggest day in American history. So I get called to be on Countdown with Keith Olbermann. And I'm so excited because this is my US television debut. I had graduated in 1996. Oh my gosh, I'm so old. I don't think any of you were even born. And I got my first gig in 2010 after years and years of touring. So I go to the television studio. I have like full hair and makeup. I'm like, you know, big hair, don't care. Eyelashes flopping in the wind. I look like I'm going to the senior prom. And I show up. And instead of putting me at the desk with the anchor, they put me on a spinning, rolling chair in front of a single camera. Now, I'm palsy. I'm very floppy. A spinning rolling chair is not very conducive. So I look at the stage manager and I go, excuse me, may I please have a more stable chair? And the producer looks at me and goes, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're doing it live. So I make my American television debut sitting and spinning on a chair, trying desperately not to roll off screen. And I was livid because I had spent a decade trying to convince people that disabled people were just as good, if not better, than their non-disabled peers. And I knew I would never be invited back. But not only did Keith Olbermann invite me back, he made me a full-time contributor and he taped down my chair. So, y'all are high school students. Your National Honor Society, which I was too. I'm very proud of it. My senior year for Honor Society, I actually danced because my parents couldn't afford physical therapy, so they sent me a tap class. So I was like a dancer. I danced at National Honor Society. So I know that the next couple of things I'm going to tell you feel like maybe you're too young for this advice, but I'm never going to see you again. So I want to give you this advice when I have the chance to do so. And my first piece of advice is do not ask any human being if they have children. I know it seems like a really natural question, right? You're like, oh, you're married, which is a valid question because you might be interested in them. But you're like, are you married? And they say yes or no. The next question out of most people's mouths is, do you have kids? And I am here to tell you, don't ask people that. Don't ask people that. You have no idea what the person across from you has been through. Maybe they had a miscarriage that morning. Maybe they've run out of money for IVF, or maybe, just maybe, their child was the one of, too many that were gunned down in our American schools. And here's a little secret for you. People with kids will always tell you, you never have to ask them. They just like volunteer the information. You're like, hey, Vishal. And they're like, have you met Timmy and Sally? And I'm like, I don't care. The other thing that you should never do is never ask a human being if they are pregnant. I have the kind of body that looks like I'm 5 months pregnant at all times. The only time that asking someone if they're pregnant is a valid question is if you see a skull coming out from between their legs. At that point, call 911. But otherwise, don't ask people. Like I said, I always look like I'm 5 months pregnant. So like when I'm going through security at TSA, you know, they flag me for extra screening because I am always random. Get it? Because I'm Arab. Okay. And the last time, this is in the before the pandemic, when we used to travel, I used to tour 200 days a year. Now I sit in my basement with you all and I love it. I really do. It's so much easier. So I was going through security and they were patting me down. And the security agent says to me, is it a boy or a girl? And I go, Doritos, Cool Ranch. And then I was at the United Nations. This woman puts her hand on my belly and she goes, oh my God, when are you due? You look like you're about to pop. And I'm like, I am about to pop. I'm about to pop you in the face, you bitch. Which brings me to my final point. We must stop using the word bitch. It is violent. It is misogynistic. And we must do better. But I know you're in high school. It's a cool world. It's fun. You're like, where are my bitches at? So I am here, National Honor Society, to advance your dialogue, to advance your conversation, to give you a more empowering word because you don't want to use a misogynistic and violent word. So my replacement for the B word is popple. It's spelled Popple. And it's a toy from the 90s that had the ability to stick its head in its butt and become a ball. And it's the perfect replacement word for the B word. I'm going to use it in some sentences like they used to make you write in English and reading. Where my popples at? Popple, better have my money. Popple, please. Or my favorite one, bow down, Popple. Bow down, Popple. And what you're saying is put your head in your butt and roll out of here. The world is broken, but we can fix it. We can fix it by saying no. Say no to arming violence worldwide and say no to violence against women. Say no to being an internet troll. We were taught that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And that is simply not true. Words matter. Never be the person who causes another human being to harm themselves. If you feel the need to spew hate online, Google cats on glass tables instead. You will thank me. And say no to being silenced. Your voice is your weapon against injustice. I beg you, use it. Thank you so much, National Honor Society, for bringing back memories of my proudest moments in high school of finding out that I was NHS. And thank you so much for giving me a chance to tell you my story. And now it's time for my most favorite part of the day, which is Q&A.
Okay, everyone. Thank you so much, Ms. Zayid, for that amazing speech. That was incredibly inspiring.
Do you mind, Sam, if I just get a quick sip of water? You're going to hear me gulping because I have my headphones in, and then I'll slide right back in because I forgot to bring a bottle.
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Chat with them. I can hear you in my ear.
Okay. So we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us. Now, at this moment, we will be opening attendance. So make sure to get that done for your credit while it is open. And Ms. Zayid will now be taking questions. So if you haven't already, be sure to comment your questions if you have any. And I will hand it over to Shri, who will be reading those questions.
Okay, so
I'm back. I'm coming. 1 second. I'm so sorry. I usually have a really cute swell bottle with me, but I forgot it. I'm off my game today.
okay, so the first question we have is
The answer is C. It's C,
Um,
just circle C. Next question.
Okay. Next question is then, what inspired you to become a stand-up comedian? And then a follow-up question to that is, since you're a comedian, what's your like go-to joke?
Yeah. Okay. So what inspired me to become a stand-up comedian was the fact that Hollywood shuns disability. So I grew up just not seeing disabled people on TV. And if I did see disabled people on TV, they were white boys. Boys, not men, white boys. The images of disability that I was exposed to as a child were basically the kids, on the Shriners commercials and the St. Jude's commercials asking for donations. And so, as I mentioned in my stand-up, because I didn't see myself in Hollywood, I did see myself in stand-up comedy. So like, if you Google Richard Pryor was a very, very famous comedian, and he worked very heavily in social justice. I don't think his audience knew that because he was just funny, but he did a lot on race, on disability, on poverty, and Richard got multiple sclerosis later in his life. So at the end of his comedy career, he was a wheelchair user and he shook, and I shake. And so I remember watching him as a kid. I think I was probably like 13 or 15, like in that area, watching him as a kid and being like, oh, okay, he shakes and he's really famous. Maybe if I do stand-up comedy, I can break in to television too, like other people who were not perfect, right? Because the way I kind of visualized my disability wasn't like, I'm bitter and mad because I'm disabled. I was like, oh, this makes me weird. This makes me different. But when I looked at stand-up comedy, I saw people like Ellen. I saw people like Rosie O'Donnell. I saw people like Richard Pryor. And I thought, oh, okay, this is where the misfits go. There's a movie that's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and he ends up on an island of misfit toys. And really the world of stand-up comedy felt like the island of misfit toys to me because, as I said, I wasn't just disabled. I was a brown disabled person. There's not a lot of brown people in the game. Like when I met Hassan Minhaj and I met Riz Ahmed, I had been doing this stuff for 20 years before like the brown people all united and became power, houses. And so I went into stand-up comedy thinking the only way that I'm going to make it in Hollywood is by being a comic, becoming really famous, and then getting a show like Ellen has, or a show like, Rosie O'Donnell had. And that's exactly what I did. And stand-up comedy did exactly what I planned for it to do. My dream in life was to be on the daytime soap opera General Hospital. The executive producer of General Hospital saw me doing my TED Talk and mentioning General Hospital, and he gave me a gig on General Hospital. So like, the stand-up comedy opened the world that I wanted access to. And my way in was by being one of the misfits.
Another question we have is, what advice would you give, people that are not disabled? How can they, connect with disabled people, and how should they, make them feel belonged?
Okay, so the first thing is always remember that you can become disabled at any time. Don't ever be like, oh my God, poor disabled person. I am a strong cheerleader and therefore I'm better than them. Keep in mind that you can become disabled at any time. Treat the disabled person you are with exactly the way that you would treat any other human being. Disabled people will ask for help if they need it. Don't constantly be like, how do I help you? How do I open your door? How do I cut your food? Like, give them the opportunity to be treated equally. And I know this is like nuanced and it's hard, but you guys are National Honor Society. I believe in the depth of your personalities. Create a space where they feel safe asking for stuff and feeling like they won't be left behind. So for example, how do you pronounce your name, Surdata?
Yeah, that's it. You pronounce it correctly.
So it would be kind of like, you know, you would come up to me and be like, hey, Maysoon, we're going out to dinner. And, you know, I made sure it was accessible, but if you need anything else, just let me know. Instead of at dinner being like, do you need me to cut that? Do you need me to open the straw? Do you need me to open the door? Do you need me to go with you to the bathroom? Instead of doing that, like I said, just right at the top, hey, buddy, made sure it was accessible. Absolutely anything else you need, just ask me. I want to make sure we both have fun. I'm here for you, right? So it's more like, I'm here for you. And it's the same here for you that you are with a non-disabled person who maybe is introverted and doesn't love to go out, doesn't know how to have conversation, maybe doesn't have the funding. So treat them like you would treat anyone else and create a super embracive space where whatever they need, they can ask without feeling like, oh, this is not going to get me invited next time. I'm too high maintenance.
Another question we have is, first, it's a compliment. It's saying you are amazingly funny and positive. And then the question asks, what do you think helped you stay this positive throughout your life?
Light expunges darkness. I grew up watching Star Wars. I believe in Jedis. I believe in the power of good. I believe that going out into the world and being like, you know, it's really interesting. I'm going to tell you a little background. I got the time zone wrong today. I thought that I was supposed to be here at 10:30 Eastern time. I thought I was supposed to be here at 10:30 Pacific time. I got a message from Sophie being like, hey, where are you at? Because you told me you'd be here and you're not here. And I was literally like, entrenched in the news in my pajamas, like covered in Dorito dust. And I saw the message. I was like, I have to get there for the National Honor Society. And I like put on my like very sparkly shirt that I'm really proud of, see, sparkles, and hopped on. And I wasn't like, I don't want to talk to you people. I'm too busy. It's Saturday morning. I went in thinking, what a privilege. Like, what a great privilege to sit with your generation and have this conversation. And it's how I approach everything in my life. I go in thinking, okay, the situation is sad, it's scary, it's overwhelming. What can I do to make it positive, to learn from it, and to survive it? And I also accept failure. I think one of the reasons that I'm so joyous is that I don't let failure destroy me. I sold the TV show to ABC television, and my producers were quite frankly racist. And the show never made it on TV because they wanted to portray offensive stereotypes of Arabs and Muslims that I wasn't willing to participate in. So I walked away from it. But when I walked away from it, it didn't make me bitter and never want to work with another producer. It didn't make me quit. It made me say, okay, what lesson did I learn from this? And how can I, in the next situation, do better and go further so that I'm never defeated again? And I think that's how I approach life. I accept the fact that we fail. I take my failures and I learn. And I truly believe, and I think this is so important for anyone who pursues stand-up comedy, public speaking, or any sort of oration. I believe in first doing no harm. So in my stand-up comedy, I don't use racism, I don't use ableism, and I don't use misogyny. And when I tell the B word joke and I say that I want to use popple because it's like my fetch and my fleek, what I'm saying to you is, I don't need to use the B word. I don't need to be misogynistic. I don't need to be violent or hateful or racist or negative in any way. I can be just as funny without being hateful. And I think a lot of comedians feel like they're being censored. I don't feel like I'm being censored. I feel like I'm being challenged. I feel like, what's the better word? What's the better phrase? I don't need slurs. I want my audience to have fun, to learn and to listen, and not to leave the room feeling like I triggered the darkest moment in their lives. So I bring positivity to the table because beginning and middle and end, I am a brown, disabled woman of color, but I am so privileged. I have a roof over my head. I have food. COVID did not kill my loved one. I have the opportunity on a Saturday morning to sit in my beautiful basement with my evil eye protecting me and talk to amazing, amazing trailblazers of the future like you. And I have the opportunity to, I hope, with my positivity, kind of get the message out to you that we are all equal and that there's no limit of power. I don't need you to suffer so that I can survive. We can all thrive together.
Okay, and our last question is, so NHS, we actually have an honorary membership for special needs students. And so we give NHS members that, well, we give students that would
with
otherwise—
intellectual disabilities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you could, talk to them right now and give them some that positivity that you're talking about.
For any student who has an intellectual disability or a mental health issue or is disabled and got honorary membership, don't think it's a favor. Don't think it's charity. Don't think you don't belong. You belong. And the only reason that you didn't make it on your own merits and you were given a special access is because you haven't been given access anywhere. If you had accessibility in your life, if you had equality in your life, you could get to this phase. It's not about having the highest test score. It's not about getting into the best college. It's not about doing better than Sam or doing better than Sophia. It's about being the best you that you can be. Only compete with yourself. Do not let anyone else identify you. Only you get to identify you. Think of the person you want to be and be that person. And if no one cheers for you, cheer for yourself. You don't need them to. This is not charity. You belong. You are chosen because you earned it. I believe that. And like the kids that are on this phone call will tell you, before the cameras turned on, I was a frazzled mess. And pulling this together, I'm not just telling you things that I think will make you feel good, but will harm you in the future. I am arming you to go out into the world and be the best that you can be and create light, expunge darkness wherever you go. Good is so much fun.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Zayid. That was absolutely amazing.
Sophia, before we leave, can we put us in gallery view and take a quick screenshot? Because if we were doing this live, which is what we would have been doing in the pre-COVID times, I would do the selfie with the whole audience behind me. But because we're virtual, I can't do that. So I would love if right before you say bye, you guys could just count me down and take a screenshot.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
And then send it to me. So count me down so I don't look silly.
I will take it. 1 second. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. You can find me on maysoon.com. Like the month of May is coming soon. MAYS as in Sam, OON.com. Take chances in your life. Sophia emailed me out of nowhere through my website. And I was like, I was National Honor Society. I'll totally donate my time. And if she hadn't taken that risk, I wouldn't be here. So take risks. You have nothing to lose.
All right, well, that brings our guest speaker event to a close. I just want to say